So after In Your House, what we have is the next head-to-head, and that takes place on July 22nd of 1996. For Nitro, we are still at Disney. I thought the follow-up to Hogan's heel turn would have been better in arenas and not Disney. So, I don't know, it just looks kind of weird when they're in daylight. And, yeah, I don't know, I just kind of like the aesthetic of being in a stadium better. But for the show, the announcers kind of tell us what's going to happen tonight. One of the main things is that they say the Giant will answer Hollywood Hogan's title match proposal tonight. And for the first match of Nitro, we have Squire David Taylor with Jeeves versus Scott Norton. So essentially, this match is quick. Scott Norton tosses Dave Taylor over the top rope, causing a disqualification. Dave Taylor and Scott Norton continue fighting after the bell, and Norton ends it with attempting a powerbomb to Taylor, but Taylor kind of wiggles his way out of Norton's grip and then just walks away. I did not get the booking for this match. I did not think they did a good job of building Scott Norton here. I felt like they should have had him dominate the match because you're not doing anything with Dave Taylor. I don't understand why they didn't have him just annihilate him. Didn't even have him do a powerbomb. So not a good start for Nitro, but we'll see how they do for the rest of the night. After that match, we do get a Mean Gene table interview with the Four Horsemen. Ric Flair is not there with them, but Arn says that Flair likes expensive cars and beautiful women, and Flair also loves to make an entrance, and he will be out here tonight right on cue. Mongo asks who cares about the outsiders and says that Macho Man, Lex Luger, and Sting won't look so pretty after today. Benoit tells Luger and company that they will experience the crippler firsthand tonight, and he says he is unrelenting, vicious, and unmerciless. Benoit's much better when he keeps it short and sweet. Our second match for Nitro, it is VK Wall Street versus Conan. We do have some fans that are familiar with VK Wall Street's previous work, and we have some small IRS chants that break out during Wall Street's entrance. The announcers tell us that VK Wall Street is upset with his win-loss record and wants to make a statement tonight by beating Conan. Good luck with that, Mr. Wall Street. Your win-loss record isn't going to get any better. Larry Sabisco on commentary. He says some things that would be construed as racist these days. He continually asks if Conan has a green card. Has said some other things that may not fly with today's audiences. But Conan wins this match with a pin reversal. VK Wall Street dominated the majority of the match, which is weird since he's been a jobber. But either way, Conan wins this match. And then we'll just move on to the next thing. We have a ramp interview with Lex Luger, Sting, and Macho Man. Gene tells them that Ric Flair isn't here yet. Luger says they came here to make a statement, and last week he got stomped into a mud hole while Macho Man and Sting were in Japan, and that to him implies that the NWO is scared of a fair fight. Sting asks where Flair is, and he says he doesn't care. He would take on any of the Horsemen. Macho Man says he is ready to fight, and he wants Hogan here, he wants Flair here, and he wants the outsiders here so they can settle everything tonight. Not so easy, Macho Man. We're not going to blow through a year worth of story today. Sorry, man. And then after we wrap up the interview, Gene does also tell us that at Hog Wild, Sting and Les Luger will be facing the outsiders. To keep our count going, we have another Glacier vignette. I don't remember what number this is, but it's getting ridiculous. He is coming at some point. We'll see. And then after a commercial break, we get this ridiculous video of WCW jobbers at the beach. And notably, it is Joe Gomez, Alex Wright, and Jim Powers. It's kind of like a Baywatch thing. It's really weird. You check it out for yourself. It's weird. They're all walking around towards the camera with their shirts off. And yeah, some people may be a fan. Didn't do much for me, didn't do much for them. But we will go over to Raw. And we have the first match of the evening is Smoking Guns with Sonny versus Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, and this is for the tag team titles. Before the match starts, Sonny has a birthday cake for Shawn, and Shawn goes to take a look at it, but the Smoking Guns do a double baseball slide to Shawn Michaels and Ahmed as they are distracted by Sonny and the birthday cake. Or just Sonny, whichever one. In Shawn's case, probably Sonny. Shawn and Ahmed then take care of the Smoking Guns, and then Shawn goes to put cream from the cake on Sonny's face, and then Sonny goes to throw the cake in Shawn's face, but Ahmed saves the day and he puts the cake in Sonny's face. And then Shawn goes in to kiss Sonny, and he does this twice, and then his music plays, and I guess we're not going to have a match right now because we just move on to the next thing. So I guess the match is going to happen a little bit later tonight. But we'll go to our second match for Raw, and it is The Goon versus Mark Mero with Sable. Before the match, Gorilla Monsoon tells us that we will indeed have the tag team title match tonight, but since Billy Gunn is a little disoriented, they wanted to give him some time to recuperate, and he tells us that if Billy Gunn is not ready to have a match tonight, then they will lose the tag team titles. And then also during this match, we have Stone Cold on commentary, and he says he wants to face Ahmed Johnson, he wants to face Shawn Michaels, and he wants to face Bret Hart, but Bret's gone and it will never happen. Stone Cold calls himself the excellence of execution, and that's all there is to it. This is the first seed of the upcoming Stone Cold Bret Hart feud. If you have never seen their feud, this is where it starts. Bret Hart's not back yet, remember, but this is the first time that these two have been kind of mentioned together. It leads to some of the best matches you've ever seen in your life, so if you haven't seen it, this is where it starts. But great stuff coming ahead for them too. Also, during this match, in case you needed any further clue that WWF did not give a shit about this match, which they shouldn't because they had the fucking goon in it, we also get a phone call with Jake the Snake, who says that he will be back soon. Jerry King Lawler continues to make some more alcoholic joke towards Jake the Snake, and Stone Cold does some as well. King also shows us a bottle of Jim Beams, and he says that is Jake's tag team partner. Jake the Snake doesn't like all of this jokes at his expense. He tells Jerry King Lawler he will pay for his words. Stone Cold on commentary also makes fun of Mark Merrow's Wild Man gimmick, telling Vince the WWF has done some stupid stuff before, and he takes a shot at the Luger Express gimmick that failed. He doesn't outright mention the Luger Express, but he says to Vince that you painted a bus red, white, and blue and had someone kissing babies. So clearly, that's just another shot at WCW. But for this match, it went way too long for a match with a freaking goon. But of course, Mark Merrow wins the match. Total waste of time. I mean, these gimmicks are just awful. I cannot believe this is going on the same time as the NWO. Just cannot believe it. But we'll just move on from that travesty of a match. We will go to backstage interview with Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson. Shawn Michaels tells Sonny, thanks for the cake, if you know what I mean. He says that. A wink, wink. But Shawn continues on, and he says that he and Ahmed want a piece of tag team gold tonight. And he also says, Sonny can't get any of the action, but the Guns can. I guess the action between him and Sonny would take place after the show. But we will go back to Nitro, where we have our third match of the day, and it is Jim Powers, Renegade, Alex Wright, and Joe Gomez versus the Dungeon of Doom. Shivani says he has heard some rumors of a new member of the Dungeon of Doom, so we'll have to wait and see who that is. But we won't have to wait long, because we see the Taskmaster, Hugh Morris, and the Barbarian walk out with Jimmy Hart, and then we see the fourth member. He just runs right by the rest of them, and it's the freaking Leprechaun. We are not done with the shitty Dungeon of Doom characters. The Leprechaun has some huge teeth, and he has a fiery attitude. It's just a stereotype of a Leprechaun, so we have that going on too. Maybe him and the Goon should have a match. It'd be the worst thing anyone's ever seen. But also during this match, we get taken away because Tony Schiavone announces that there's trouble at the production area, and so we send a cameraman down to the production crew. So thank goodness we're skipping some of this match. We see Hall and Nash at the production truck, and they start to press buttons randomly, and this turns off some lights. Nash takes the headset of one of the production members, and Hall tells one of the cameramen to pan to a certain section of the crowd. So I've never been happier to see Hall and Nash hijack a match. Eventually, Nash and Hall do get escorted out of the production truck area. We unfortunately return to the match, and we see Teddy Long coming out, and he has a talk with Jim Powers, kind of a pep talk thing. The faces go on a run, and they kind of have the advantage over the Dungeon of Doom until the Giant comes out and hits the choke slam on all the faces. And of course, he hits some great choke slams, notably on the Renegade and Jim Powers. His choke slams at this point are just fantastic. The Giant then kicks all of the men out of the ring. So then we have a in-ring interview with the Giant. Mean Gene asks the Giant what is his response to Hollywood Hogan's title request. The Giant says his mission when joining the WCW was to win the title, and he did that. He says his oath is to defend the WCW at any time, and he says while Hogan has been in Hollywood, he has been winning titles. The Giant says he is the cancer and there is no cure, and he is going to chokeslam Hogan in the middle of the ring. And then Jimmy Hart ends it with telling Hogan that the Giant will be ready for Hog Wild. So it looks like the Giant has accepted Hogan's title shot request. So that will be our main event for Hog Wild. But we'll go to our fourth match, and it is Diamond Dallas Page versus Prince Iaukea. There are no entrances for both men, so we go straight to the match is a short match. Not going to bore you to tears with it. Diamond Dallas Page wins with the Diamond Cutter. But one thing I think the WCW needs to do a better job with is when they introduce new characters such as Jim Powers, Joe Gomez, Prince Iaukea, they kind of need to do some video packages or something to kind of make us know who they are. Because when they're introduced to us on Nitro, unless you're like a super fan, you know nothing about these people. They may be on the other shows like Saturday Night, Powerline, or what have you. But for people who just tune into Nitro, we don't know anything about these guys. They're just jobbers. But the fifth match of the night, it is Chavo Guerrero versus Dean Malenko. This is Chavo Guerrero's Nitro debut and his televised WCW debut. Cool to know. The announcers talk about Malenko's impossible involvement with the Dungeon of Doom because Jimmy Hart is trying to help Malenko get a title shot for the Cruiserweight title, a rematch with Rey Mysterio if he beats Chris Benoit at Hog Wild. During this match, notably, the main thing is that Jimmy Hart comes out during the match and he does his megaphone gimmick cheering Malenko on, but Malenko doesn't seem to want any part of Jimmy Hart being out there, being his manager, so he argues with him and Chavo almost gets the win, but Malenko then goes into business mode and wins with the Texas Cloverleaf. So then we will go back to Raw, and we have another great match for you. It is Freddie Joe Floyd versus Mankind. During Freddie Joe Floyd's entrance, we cut backstage and see Clarence Mason trying to get a client of his a job in the WWF. His client is a ex-felon. He says his client was exonerated. I'll go ahead and spoil it for you because it's not anything that's going to be a major deal in WWF, but we're getting ready for the re-debut of Crush. Crush was around the WWF in the early 90s, and he is coming back. He did actually get arrested. He was arrested in Hawaii, which is where he's from. He is coming back. One thing that happens during this match is Freddie Joe Floyd tries an awful top rope move, and he misses wildly. I don't think that was a plan, but yeah, it looked really rough. But Mankind wins this match with a mandible claw, and as Mankind leaves, Brian Pillman walks by him and approaches the commentary table. And that sets up something for our next Raw match, but we'll get to that a little bit later. We'll get through some more of Nitro first. Our sixth match of the night for Nitro is Ming with Jimmy Hart versus Ice Train. Rest in peace, Ice Train. During this match, Bischoff mentions on commentary that Ming's people were cannibals just 200 years ago. This was his way of trying to present Ming as being a dangerous man. That's one way to do it, I guess. Also during this match, we see Teddy Long watching the match. This is continuing his involvement in Ice Train's storyline, but Ming dominates Ice Train for the majority of this match. And later on in the match, Ming has Ice Train on the outside of the ring, and then Scott Norton comes out and attacks Ming, causing a disqualification. Norton talks to the camera and he says that Ice Train has nothing to worry about until Hog Wild because he doesn't want Ice Train to have any excuses, and he tells Ice Train that his worst nightmare has come true. So we're just kind of build this feud to the former tag team partners, now bitter rivals match at Hog Wild. I'll go to our fourth match for Raw, and we have Barry Horowitz versus Goldust. This seems to be get all the jobbers on the card night, but again, Pillman came to the commentary table, and he says he will exercise his First Amendment rights, and he might even say the 7 words you can't say on television, and he tells Vince that he will get him into trouble. Vince also announces that at the next pay-per-view, Goldust will face Mark Mero. So that leads us to a backstage interview with Mero, and Mark Mero promises jungle warfare, and he tells Goldust that you don't pull on Superman's cape, and you don't spit in the wind, and you don't mess with Sable. And he is sick of Goldust sending her letters and presents, and says Goldust now has his full attention. Cool stuff there. We'll go back to Brian Pillman on commentary, and he says that he wants to see Sable and Marlena go after each other's carpets. And then he coughs, jugulars. Another line I was very surprised to hear. Again, they're kind of catering more towards the teenage to adult audience more now instead of the family-friendly stuff. But yeah, I was still very surprised by that line, even from Pillman. Pillman also says that he can't say anything mean about Barry Horowitz because that would be construed as anti-Semitic. But for the match itself, it was a quick job match with Goldust winning. The commentary was kind of more fun than the match. I'll just say that. But this leads us also to a backstage interview with Sonny and the Smoking Guns. Sonny tells Ahmed and Shawn Michaels that they have no idea how to be respectable champions, and they would not have their cake and eat it too. Billy Gunn says they're about to see a side of the Smoking Guns they have never seen before. And we'll go to our last Nitro match before the main events for both shows. We have Eddie Guerrero versus Psychosis. At one point during the match, I could hear a kid yell at Eddie Guerrero to take Psychosis' mask off. I thought it was funny, but this was a pretty good match, especially for a Nitro match on TV. Eddie Guerrero wins it with a frog splash. This was a back and forth match that had some storyline ish stuff to it. Psychosis wanting to avenge a previous loss to Eddie Guerrero. So for a Nitro, especially around this time, good match. But now we're on to the main events. I will go ahead and do Raw's first. But before the main event, we do have an in-ring interview with Vader. Jim Cornette asks Vince who won the six-man tag. Vince tells Cornette that Vader has some help. Cornette tells Vince, when you ask for the time, he doesn't want to hear about who made the watch. Cornette tells Shawn that Vader is a bully and he's looking for a new shiny football, and he will shake Shawn for change, and no one can beat Vader because he is the baddest man walking. Cornette ends this segment with telling Shawn that he is walking into his worst nightmare. Uh-oh, Shawn. Sounds like Vader's coming for you. But we have Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson versus the Smoking Guns, and this is for the WWF Tag Team title. So the match starts, the Smoking Guns take advantage of Shawn for a while, but eventually Shawn gives a hot tag to Ahmed Johnson, and Ahmed Johnson, he takes care of business with the Smoking Guns. But later in the match, Farouk Assad runs out and attacks Ahmed Johnson. Farouk is wearing his hideous gladiator attire. It is luckily not going to last too long, but it's still ugly sight. They don't mention Farouk by name just yet, but King does mention that he looks like Ron Simmons. So if you're familiar with Ron Simmons, you would know that was him. Of course, he was the first African American to be WCW heavyweight champion. He looks a lot different than he does those days with the WWF, but he takes care of Ahmed Johnson, and Shawn is in the ring and he sees this, and so him and Farouk have a kind of a stare down, and Farouk eventually does leave. There will be no tag team title change today. Sonny ends Raw with celebrating with Farouk and telling us that from this day forward, this kingdom is hers. Before I get into my thoughts for Raw, we'll go into the main events for Nitro. And the main event was supposed to be Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, and Mongo McMichael versus Sting, Lex Luger, and Macho Man. Flair does not come out with Benoit and Mongo McMichael, so we go to commercial, and then at the commercial, we still do not see Ric Flair. So we are wondering, where is Flair? Did the Outsiders do something to Flair? We see Arn checking the tinted windows of the NWO limo. He's looking for Ric Flair. He doesn't see anything, so he comes out to replace Ric Flair. The best part of this match was when Sting and Chris Benoit were in the ring together. They just had good chemistry, both very good wrestlers. But another thing that is noteworthy is that Mongo, he started out well, but he had a really rough sequence with Sting where he messed up like 5 different times, and Sting looked like he was getting a little fed up with him. Mongo, he gets a little excited during his matches, and then when he does, he is just botch heavy. But again, he's not as bad as the internet says, but still, yeah, when he's bad though. That's for sure. But congratulations on being in the Hall of Fame. Well deserved. Pro Football Hall of Fame. During the match, as usual, Sting, he gets dominated for a while before getting the hot tag in. He gets a hot tag to Lex Luger. The crowd loved it. And eventually, all 6 men get in the ring, and everyone is fighting. The ref can't get control of the match. Woman grabs the briefcase from Deborah because she wants to hit one of the faces with it, but Deborah doesn't let her take the briefcase because it has the money in it, and she probably shouldn't be carrying around all that money in a briefcase. She should deposit it in a bank. Deborah, you probably should do that. But Macho Man runs up and he grabs the briefcase and hits Benoit in the back with it, and this allows Lex Luger to get the pin. Macho Man chases the Horsemen off with the briefcase, and we are still left wondering, where was Flair? But we get an after-match ring interview with Sting, Lex Luger, and Macho Man. Sting says last week Luger was feeling beat down, but now he doesn't feel down because they are feeling mean. Sting continues on saying he knows the Outsider's birthday. He was thumbing through the paper and he saw the horoscopes, and it says that at Hog Wild it's a bad day for Leos. Luger says if the Outsiders want to push them over the edge, then they have done a real good job. Luger says he has worked for a lot of years to get where he is, and he cares about the WCW, and they have nothing but disgust and disdain for what the NWO represents, and at Hog Wild, the NWO will learn what WCW is all about. Macho Man tells Hulk Hogan that at Hog Wild, he thinks he is going to be facing the Giant, but he won't make it because he is going to beat him up and nothing will stop him from kicking his head in. Macho Man tells Hogan they have a date and don't be late. During this promo, I thought it was good fire from Luger and Macho Man. The Sting part was kind of weird with the horoscopes because I don't believe Nash or Hall are Leos, so yeah, that was kind of odd, but not a bad promo. They are really building the hate between WCW and the NWO. I think they're doing it well, certainly better than any storyline going on in WWF at this time, with the major story for WWF being Vader for Shawn Michaels, which we all know how that turned out. So WWF is just not operating at their peak right now, clearly. WCW is starting to get into their peak, and we're clearly going to see a stark contrast on the quality of these shows here coming up. And for this week, Nitro is clearly the winner. For Jacob, who had to miss this recording, he also picked Nitro to win this week, so that just continues the domination from Nitro from the start of the Monday Night War so far.